Welcome back on TSL today. We fibbed. We said that we wouldn't see you until Monday, but we bring you an episode on Friday. Hi, everybody. I'm Giovanni Heater, joined alongside Nick Brown, and episode 2 of TSL today starts right now. We come to you on October 21st here from the Corporate Research Center at Virginia Tech. I'm Giovanni Heater, again, joined alongside Nick Brown with you for TSL Today, Episode 2. Not a ton of news on a Friday to start off our show with, but we do got to tell you, Evan Hughes is the guest today. He's going to be coming up shortly. Very excited to have him on to talk women's basketball, so it's kind of a good segue. Let's start off with talking a little bit of women's basketball. Virginia Tech is predicted to finish second in the ACC. And also Elizabeth Kitley is picked to defend her ACC Player of the Year crown this year.
Yeah, and Virginia Tech added 2 fantastic transfers. You have a former All-American in Ashley Owusu, and then Taylor Soule, first team All-ACC from Boston College. Pretty darn impressive transfers right there. Both averaged over 15 points a season ago at the respective schools. So I'm excited. I think this team's going to be really, really special. I don't think there's a lot of teams in any sports in Virginia Tech history. And of course, softball last year was pretty darn dominant, staying around the number 2 position the whole season. But there's not too many teams that are this talented for any sport that come around Blacksburg too often. So it's going to be really cool, and I really hope that the fans make it out and take their time out of the days to go to those games. Yes, I know the men's basketball is the big sport in the winter, but I think women will be maybe even more exciting, mostly because how good they are. And there's going to be a ton of ranked games this season. They're going to play a lot of top 10 teams in Castle this year, so that'll be really, really fantastic. So I'm really, really excited about this women's team.
Yeah, we got a lot more Virginia Tech women's basketball stuff to uncover when we have Evan Hughes on in just a couple of minutes. But let's turn the script here to the women's soccer side of things. Tough night last night. They lose 1-0 to Notre Dame. They were just on the brink. So for those that don't know, in women's soccer, the top 6 teams get to play in the ACC tournament. Virginia Tech was 7th. Then they lose last night to Notre Dame, who was 2nd in the ACC. That kind of puts them behind the 8 ball here, Nick. What are your thoughts?
Well, I was there. I'm been blessed to be the PA announcer for the women's team this year, and they are a fantastic bunch. And they've had plenty of exciting games this year, and a couple of top 5 teams. This is the 3rd team they've played in the top 10. And, they beat UNC 2-1 with 2 goals late in the game. And then they tied UVA 3-3 with 2 goals in the final 10 minutes to tie that game up. And, last night, Notre Dame, who's now number 1 in the conference after that win, they scored in the first 6 minutes of the game. Kind of took all of the energy out of the crowd. Crowd was pumped. You always have the shirtless guys there. There's always 5 to 6 shirtless dudes that show up to women's soccer games. They've been doing that for years, and they're always juiced up. But that goal really took the life out of the crowd. But Virginia Tech, I think, watching the game, it's my job. I have to watch it intently. They really dominated. They had a lot more scoring opportunities, a whole lot more shots on goal. Lauren Hargrove, the goalie, made excellent saves after excellent saves, but the offense just couldn't find the back of the net. They had about 3 to 4 shots that could have found the back of the net, but for the most part, Notre Dame's defense and their goalie played a great game too. It just stinks that it was a free kick that decided it early on in the 6 minutes into the game. Yeah. But that's just how soccer goes. I know Jake sat in this chair on Wednesday, so soccer is just all about lucky bounces, and that goal was a lucky bounce. So it just is what it is. And, this Tech team, they still, I think, have a very good case to get in the NCAA tournament. And who knows, once you get into tournament time, anything can happen. But they do have a very good opportunity to pick up a win on Sunday for their last home game against Syracuse, who is 1-5 in the ACC, so not very good.
Yep, you mentioned it. Syracuse at Thompson Field on Sunday. And then on Thursday, they're on the road for the final game of the regular season, taking on a very, very good Florida State team who had a really tight contest against North Carolina last night. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit of men's basketball here. Really short hit on it here. Coach Mike Young said that freshman point guard Rodney Rice still struggling with that lower body injury. He will not be ready to go for the season opener on November 7th against Delaware State. Nick, kind of what are your thoughts on that? How important is that? Probably the second string point guard right now in the rotation for Virginia Tech. How big of a loss is that early on for the Hokies?
The rumors have been kind of swelling around this injury, and people really expected him to be out till December. And so for Mike Young to just say, he didn't say when officially he'd be back, but he did say only that he'd be missing the opening game. So if that's true, if he's only missing 1, maybe 2 or 3 games, that's big. So they will have him for hopefully the UNC game to add depth and give Sean Padula some breaks. But I've been watching him, tracking him all throughout high school. I love doing that. High school basketball players. I think it's so entertaining to watch on YouTube. And he's fantastic. And like Mike Young said, when he recruited him as a 2, so a shooting guard. And then when he got here, he's like, dang, that's a point guard right there. And when he was at DeMatha, he was a 2. He's a fantastic shooter, fantastic playmaker, played against some of the top competition in the country in those big-time high school tournaments. But it is cool to see him kind of transition to a point guard and add depth right there, because right now Virginia Tech has really big backup in the 2 position, but not so much in the 1. So that's really good news that Rodney will be able to be a good playmaker for the Hokies as the backup for Sean. All
right, to cap things off, as far as our news segment goes today on TSL Today, women's golf, big performance.
Yeah, they finished 8th in a big-time tournament down in Chapel Hill. Let me pull up these results right here. They finished 8th. I mean, that's pretty good. Still top 10. Number 1, Wake Forest was there. They came in 2nd, fell to Kentucky. But Virginia Tech had one golfer in particular, Simone Henriquez, the South African. She finished even for the weekend, 3 rounds. She was 2 under par, even par for 2nd round, and then was 2 over for round 3. She finished 8th. That's really impressive. Wake Forest only had 2 people finish in the top 10 for their golfers, and that's the number 1 team in the country right there. So for her to beat the other 2 girls out of the number 1 team in the country, that's pretty impressive. So just want to give them a little shout out.
All right, well, that wraps up today's TSL Today news and updates. Coming up next, we have the GOAT, Evan Hughes, on, who is the former podcast host right here on the Tech Sideline podcast, and he is now the Virginia Tech play-by-play voice of the women's basketball team and the baseball team. Coming up next, we got Evan Hughes in the studio after this.